Should you play Portal Prelude RTX, the new modded game from NVIDIA? They have added the RTX Power Path Tracing graphics and RTIO engine to the source engine for Portal Prelude, which is a mod made by three fellows back in 2008. Now this game, I don't know why they chose it, but they are using it to showcase their new RTX IO power, which increases direct loading speed quite a bit. And it's a weird choice, like I said, because it doesn't need this at all. The only reason I can think of them adding it was because they wanted to steal some of the limelight from the Ratchet & Clank PC port coming out really soon, which is going to have much better ray tracing, much better loading, and just all-round better game. I'm not at all surprised by this at all, because NVIDIA has been quite shit of late, and they've been pushing a strange direction with their feature set that I'm not entirely convinced is the best way to go. They are pushing very proprietary software and quite exclusionary software at that, with DLSS 3.0, DLSS in general, RT path tracing that has to use their pathing, and now RTIO, which is a DirectX 12 direct storage implementation, but specific for NVIDIA hardware. Now this is most likely done purely to corner the market to keep AMD and Intel from having a chance of using their ray tracing and their AI scalings to benefit from DLSS and this new RTIO functionality. Whether or not this is actually the best functionality and the best direct storage in the business will remain to be seen. DLSS is very quickly losing its edge run for being the best upscaler in the business, because FSR is getting up there and Intel's Arc, I forget what it's called, upscaling is quite decent as well. And it won't be long until probably next 2 years that DLSS is just another upscaling technique that causes users frustration and aggravation when it gets implemented into the games, much like FSR is currently. We don't know what the future may hold, but right now DLSS may be the best, and it doesn't mean it's going to be the best forever. Now when it comes to path tracing games, I have yet to find a single game where path tracing has improved the game. I agree that ray tracing and path tracing is the future for gaming, especially when it comes to developer speed in creating games faster. Instead of having to place baked lights everywhere in a scene, they just go bam, light this with ray tracing, the game is now lit, and they can just quickly focus on game design and lighting a scene like you would a film shot. You would set up lights where you would have them naturally, and it would light the scene naturally. And that's fantastic, especially when it comes to global illumination. However, in a complex such as the Portal facility, baked lighting still works absolute wonders. The original Portal RTX looks great, but so does the original Portal game. And the only thing that was really added was material works, and these material works take a lot of time for developers to create, especially when it comes to modding older games. You're not just going to go up to Dark Souls and just press ray tracing on button. It's not going to work. You have to upgrade all the materials to be ray trace physics-based material work, and that's a lot of time that people have to put in. When it comes to RTIO, however, this is actually quite a good feature because it's using old software and speeding up their loading times. I can imagine this in a game like Bloodborne, where the loading time is excessive to an extreme state, and reducing that by a third or even a quarter, and that would be absolutely fantastic. So instead of spending 2.5 minutes waiting for the game to initially load, it will load in less than 30 seconds, which is far beyond what we could ask for. Now as for this game in particular, Portal Prelude, I find the ray tracing does not add nearly enough to the game, and its performance losses, especially on not the highest tier of programming or hardware, especially if you don't have access to DLS 3.0 to upgrade the frame rate even further, you're going to have a bad time. And I personally had a really bad time playing this mod. I got glitched, I got stuck, I got bugged, and I got into a few rooms where I literally couldn't complete it because the game would not perform correctly and I had to cheat to get to the next area. I legitimately had to use NoClip twice throughout my run just to beat the game. Now, I understood what I had to do. I even attempted to do it many times, but it just wouldn't play out correctly. I believe that this is a failure, not because of NVIDIA's end, but because of the choice of their mod. This Prelude mod is quite good, but it's very old, and the only reason why they chose it is because it's a mod for Portal 1 instead of a mod for Portal 2, such as Portal Reloaded, which uses a extra portal called the Time Portal, and it's an absolutely breathtakingly well-designed game considering it's a Portal 2 mod. And I believe that in the future, Portal 2 mods could be really good choices for ray tracing graphics. But obviously, the way that NVIDIA does its path tracing is just not performant at all for any user and doesn't have the scalability to make it performant. So whether or not path tracing in any old games can ever be performant and useful to make them actually worthwhile putting in old games remains to be seen. Maybe in the 50 series, maybe in the 60 series, it'll be performant enough to be actually worthwhile. I remember thinking this way back when I first got my 3090, that this card was fantastic, but it just didn't quite have the performance needed to make it a truly capable card. I felt that at 4K it couldn't quite hit 120 FPS, which I know that's asking a lot for a 4K thing, but especially when I'm already using DLSS and all the others, I expect a much higher performance from my gameplay. And now when I'm playing Portal 1 mod, I'm getting around 60 to 40 FPS, and it's just a miserable experience because it's not a consistent frame-paced game. I would in some scenes have a really good time at 60 FPS, even above 60 FPS, and then other scenes it would be constantly dipping below 40 FPS or hitting 40 FPS, and it was just really inconsistent. And the DLSS mods and modes just did not add to the thing, because as we lower the resolution, it causes more problems than it fixes. You can't just keep lowering the resolution and hope for a better outcome, because in the end, ray tracing has a heavy CPU component. And until we really make better CPUs that are actually capable of ray tracing properly, we're going to have this issue for a long period of time. We're going to think it's the graphics card's fault, but in reality it's the CPU's fault, which is why NVIDIA has been targeting this DLSS 3.0 nonsense, because they know that these CPUs are the problem, and they know that it can't be fixed simply because of the way CPU architecture is. And they can't keep pulling stuff away from the CPU, they have to instead make fake frames using motion interpolation, and this causes its own set of issues and problems. I personally will never ever use DLS 3.0, not because I don't think it's not high quality, but because I know the limitations of motion interpolation. I've been watching motion interpolated footage for years on TVs and especially in anime, and sometimes it can look really great, but on frame cuts and on certain aspects, it absolutely falls apart and makes the experience worse than its non-motion interpolated counterpart. Now when it comes to Prelude, I think the story is quite good. They have a lot of comedy, even if the voice acting isn't anywhere near good, and has a lot of bad tutorialization. I remember in one of the earlier rooms, it expects you to do a speed running jump sort of technique where you jump into the portal from a certain direction, and when you do that, it causes your character to exit the portal from a different direction. And it made aiming your portals correctly really important for how the portal mechanics work, and it required this throughout a good deal of the puzzles. But if you couldn't quite wrap your head around how it actually works, you would be facing the wrong way when you exit the portal and you wouldn't be able to complete the jump correctly. This caused me many issues throughout it. And then in other cases, it expected you to do speedrunning techniques where you have to be inside the portal and then shoot outside the portal and then quickly go through your portal before it hits the other end so you don't fall into a pit of ooze or whatever else. It is very not enjoyable experience. Now, whether or not I was playing it incorrectly is up to the beholder, but I'm pretty sure it was how it was designed in the first place, because this speedrunning technique was well known in the Portal 1 community. Now, when it comes to regular players who are just trying out this new prelude Portal RTX, to try out the new RTIO and everything else to see how performant the game is on their shiny new graphics cards or their shiny old graphics cards, they may be very disappointed with the gameplay. And I was personally, because I like when Portal mods do it correctly, such as Portal Reloaded. It's one of my favorite Portal mods and I can't recommend it enough. It has really decent comedy and story all the way through, and all of the puzzles make sense. You understand what the solution for the problem is, and you can then work backwards from the solution through fixing the problem. There was only ever one room that I struggled with a long time, but eventually I did get it. And there was another room that was absolutely fantastically designed, and I recommend everyone play Portal Reloaded right now instead of this Portal Prelude RTX. One, because it's way more performant and way better looking, and two, it's just a better mod. I don't recommend you guys play this Portal Prelude RTX unless you are specifically a hyper fan of Portal 1 and Portal 1 mechanics and speedrunning mechanics and played this mod in the past. If you're just coming for a casual experience to see how ray tracing is in this Portal RTX mode or how good the RTIO is, I would recommend against it and just playing Portal RTX. It is a decent enough game and is quite good. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.